Hello, I'm Tamara Caulder Richardson, and I'm your host for the Seeking Heaven, the Near-Death Experience, and Other Phenomena. And today we have an extraordinary person and a real treat. I have had the joy to speak with him a couple times, and today we have a special guest from California, and that's Michael Tamura. And we've been laughing about Tamura, Tamara, Tamura. They're both very similar. So I want to a little bit about Michael, and then I will have him speak a little bit on himself, and then we're going to get into his near-death experiences. So he's had 5 near-death experiences, and wow, the stories behind those you're going to enjoy. And then he also has a school. Now I want to make sure that I get the school. Is it on the Michael Tamura website?
It's not officially a school. Well, it is a school, not a structural or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can find it on what we teach on michaeltamura.com.
Perfect. And I know that you're a visionary, a spiritual teacher, as well as very entertaining and very, very funny, very funny. And I know you've written a book, You're the Answer. And then you also have a radio show with your wife, Raphael, called You Are the Answer.
It's called Living the Miracle with Michael and Raphael Tamura.
Oh, it is. Oh, thank you so much.
Living
the Miracle. Okay.
Yes.
So, okay. I think that was all right. We'll edit this part out. Let me start that part over because I think it was on your website like that. Okay. Okay. So this okay. Maybe it's me. Let me just start over because I want to get that correct.
Sure.
Okay. So the radio show that he has with his wife is called Living the Miracle, and you can see that. What is it? Saturdays.
Wednesday mornings Pacific time, 11 a.m. is the live broadcast.
Okay.
And then the rest of the time, anyone can go anytime. It's on the internet, voiceamerica.com.
Okay, good.
It's the network, and the empowerment channel is where we're on. And then you can go to our site there on Living the Miracle with Michael and Raphael Tamura anytime, 24/7. We have about 156, 160 episodes so far.
That's fantastic. How long? This is you and Raphael, your wife. How long have you been doing this?
Just over 3 years.
Wow, that's fantastic. Did you get were you kind of told like me, like, hey, you need to do this?
Yeah, I've known that we needed to do something like that for a little while. And then an opportunity just, as you know.
Like a magic. There it is.
Yep.
Well, that is so wonderful. Well, I tell you what, you have been such a delight so far just to talk with. Now, before we get this is going to be like a wild roller coaster ride, guys.
Take your seatbelts off.
Yeah, don't take your seatbelts off. Get some cotton candy. Wow. So really, you have such an incredible life, and we were also talking about. We're going to talk in the second part of this on Seeker Speak Live about your abilities and how you got into the psychic clairvoyance. But this part of the show, this first part, we're going to talk about your near-death experiences. And if you want to talk about did you 2 things. Did you know you were different when you were a child? And 2, do you feel, I have my answers on this too, what I think. Do you feel near-death experiencers, especially multiple ones, like you're 5 NDEs, I'm 6 NDEs, do you think we picked that?
Well, the second question, yes. And most of us come in, especially when we're used to being born and dying then so many times. Isn't it amazing how many times a soul does that? But almost like clockwork, by the time they're 4 to 7 years old, most of it's kind of out of their mind and they don't remember. And then you have to spend a lot of time remembering. But I had the good fortune of not forgetting most of it, remembering enough to get me through. And I knew I was on a timeline. But when we come in like that, we usually set up for ourselves windows of opportunity for our exit. And sometimes we set it up because, okay, if things get too tough at this point in my life, I want a way out. And other times we set it up so that, okay, if I haven't accomplished everything I've set out to do for this lifetime by this age, then there's no sense in having to stick around anymore. I'll exit.
Oh man.
So I had several windows of opportunities.
Well, I'm really glad you started your radio show and have your spiritual practice that you help with teaching, because we want you here for a little bit longer. You're way too good. But no, that does make sense. Having these, you're right. I think that so many times people kind of place it on God, but I think it's a co-creation. Like you have this
it's a choice.
conversation and you decide, and you have these choices that you can make, and you have these. I think that's the best I've ever heard anyone say it. You have choices and you have out points. If you haven't done that, you can exit.
Yes.
People have that set up with marriages too.
Yeah. Yeah, we call that divorce, not death, but similar. I mean, it is a divorce.
Yeah.
Even just a breakup in a relationship is a death experience. So we have a lot of near-death experiencers.
Well, no, that's true. It is like a death. I've seen people, and I'm just so glad that I haven't gone through that this life. I think I was so traumatized by watching the horrific divorce my parents went through with multiple attorneys and this and that. And it was just so nasty. And they just kept talking about it years after that it happened. I was like, I think I was just like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I can't deal with this.
I mean, as you know, dying is the easy part. I mean, there's nothing to it. It just drop dead and you're out. But coming back, whether it's coming back in a near-death experience or coming back in a reincarnation, coming back and being here, living here, that's the challenge, not being in spirit.
Okay, speak it, brother. Amen. Woo-hoo. I mean, it is, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but it's a little rough here sometimes. It is. And, you know, when I was a kid, I don't know about you, but I knew I was on a timeline too. It was so funny. Like, oh my God, I felt those things you did. I knew I was here to do something, and I was on a timeline, but I felt I didn't understand people. I would just look at them like my dog does with other dogs. Like, what is that? You know, I don't know. and they do what? And so, to me, it was foreign a little bit being here. And then I would see people that would lie, and I didn't understand that. I didn't understand lying because I still don't really understand it, but I get people do that for various reasons. But that really bothered me because I couldn't understand why won't you just say what you think?
Yes. And it's fear. But yeah, when I was a kid, I felt it was so much easier to talk to animals and creatures and bugs even.
Yes.
Crawdads were my favorites. So I had more friends on that level. But, you know, he asked about how was it as a child?
Yeah.
It was, for me, it was difficult because I think most children assume everyone's just like me. And so
they do.
That's how it was in the early stages of being, I saw everything in geometrical configurations, and it just pops up between me and the other person when we get close enough. And then I look at it and I understand everything. But when I tried to talk to them about it, it just, no response. It's like I didn't say anything.
So kind of like I call them God mandalas. So you saw things geometric. Well, that was structures of life. You were seeing them. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, as it unfolds.
Wow. Are you good at math?
Yeah, I was. I mean, now, you know, Raphael does all my, accounting and everything. She won't trust me with that because if I do, what happened to all our money? I don't know.
Okay, so now you slip through the portals of your own God geometry that used to see you. Like, flying around. Okay, I got it. Yeah, I know. It's hard sometimes, at least with us being spiritual in this world. There's a few people that actually enjoy that now and they like talking about these things, so you can be a little bit more freer than especially when you're a kid and trying to fit in. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about however you want to start, if you want to go into your NDEs or the most important two, or my God, you've got so many.
5 of them, as you know, you got 6 of them. It's, hey, guess what? We're not zombies yet.
Our brain still works. We're not drooling.
Well, I don't know.
Well, maybe if I keep getting older, I might drool for another reason.
Well, it's really great. Like I mentioned, each death experience, like you said about me, I've always been like this. So unlike a lot of people I've talked to who have had near-death experiences, where the near-death experience was their first real wake-up call to spirit. Mine wasn't. I was prepared. I prepared all my life from the time when I was 20, just before I turned 21, my teacher, my spiritual teacher, all of a sudden turned to me and says, "Hey, Tamara, did you know that we all have a choice in how we wish to die?"
Yeah,
And that got me
yes.
right between my eyes, because
Yeah.
until then, I always knew I had a choice in how I wished to live here.
Oh, that's
But it's always by choice.
Mhm.
But I never considered, oh, you have a choice on how you like to die. And then he paused and then went on to say, yeah, for example, you could, most people choose to die in pain and suffering
Not
without
me.
even knowing it.
I'm not
But
into it.
you could also choose to die in love and at peace with yourself. And at that moment, I made right
Beautiful.
there and then I decided that's the way I'm going to go.
It's beautiful.
And that paved my whole path for the rest of my life from that point on.
Wow. And how old were you then? About
20.
Wow. A lot of people don't know this, but I would agree. What was it, a friend or a mentor?
And this was my teacher. Yeah, the
Oh.
person I finally found. I grew up in Japan and everything, and I was looking for something. And once I got to California, and I thought, okay, I got to go to San Francisco, and I started to look for it. Somebody's got to teach me something, because I'm here to do something, and I need to remember more of what it is.
I just love everything you're saying. That's the key. Remember, a lot of people want, to me, the job of a spiritual guidance
teacher,
counselor,
guide,
guide, is to be, whether it's earthly or here, is to be able to guide you to remembering who you already are.
Yep.
Right?
I mean, as a teacher, I don't teach anybody anything new that they don't already know within themselves. I just remind them, hey, wake up. You know this already.
There's a spirit in there.
That different. Inside, we're all the same. And that's the great thing. My first near-death experience, since you want your listeners and watch your viewers to have some of that. The first one was, the leading up to it was very, very difficult, because it was excruciating pain. I don't know what if you know about gout, but I had this horrific, complete, total body systemic gout episode that just went on and on for weeks.
That's horrible. Was it in your whole body?
Yeah, whole body, every joint, every little, even in the sutures on the top of my skull was excruciating pain. It's the kind of pain I would want to wish it on anyone.
Oh my God. So was that before the talk, or the teacher said you don't need to have the pain part?
Oh no, this was when I was 50-ish. I can't quite remember exactly what age, but 30 years later.
Okay.
And so I'm sitting there going, whoa. And in the meantime, I'm one of those that doesn't stop for anything. So I'm teaching full-time every day, and 3-day retreats, intensives and everything every weekend. And so I only had like the Wednesday of every week to just go, okay, I need to get through this thing. And of course, nothing in the medical world helped. It just made it worse. So I just was with going through it and just healing myself and everything. And it got so bad that I'm really at that place where I don't know how much longer I can do this. And so I turned to God and I said, hey, God, I really don't know how much longer I can keep this up. Bam. That instant, I'm taken out.
Really?
A lot of times you hear about people being taken out by the mafia hitman or something. No, this is God took me out. And
hey, that would be the name of a really great book. I don't know if you know my slogan. I'm a slogan writer. I've won awards. God took me out.
God took me out.
God took me out. Actually, I love that.
And this massive, incredible, magnificent angel you probably know him, Michael, my
Yeah.
namesake,
Yes.
takes me right out of the body directly to this conference room like space, but it's very elegant,
Mhm.
beautiful, like a long conference table. And then there's, besides Michael, the archangel, and there's 4 other masters, enlightened beings around this table, and they have a seat for me. I come into this kind of a room space. They're all standing there. They greet me, welcome me. It was like a homecoming. And they're all smiling and going, okay, you're done. You've accomplished more and you've given more than anything you've signed up for. So you're done.
Wow.
And so you can stay here, work with us, continue on with your spiritual guidance of people. Or because you're done, you're free to choose. You can go back if you want to. And the interesting experience there is, once you're out of time and not in eternity, there's no experience of time. There's not even a
Right.
thought. And I'm looking at, okay, choice, stay here with them in spirit and continue, or go back to earth in my body and continue. No consideration whatsoever on either side. I have no desires. It's
Right.
total.
I understand that.
Yeah, there's just, okay, whatever.
You just are. You're like, okay, you just are.
Whatever. Yeah. And so then I'm looking at them and I go, whoa, here's my opportunity. I have 5 incredible, magnificent beings of total wisdom right there on tap. So I'm going to ask them. I said, in your view, and from your perspective, which would be more benefit, not just to myself, but to anyone involved in my life, anywhere, whether I stay here with you and continue as spirit guide, or go back and continue as this Michael Tamura character. And no pause, no time to discuss it. Instantly and unanimously, they all said, if you go back, you'll be of incredible amount more benefit than
to this world. Yeah.
If you come back to this world.
I can contest to that. I mean, I'm just glad you're back. Yeah.
And so
I told you, I said, help. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
So I said, well, if that's what you decide, that's fine with me. Just send me back. And it's easy to do at that space where there's not even a thought of pain,
right?
Suffering, time, age, whatever. And so then I start to, and then the meeting's over. They go, okay, great. And the archangel's about to take me back. And as I'm turning around in terms of awareness toward back to the world, it's the first time I go, oh, I see my body down there in the bed, all curled up in bad shape.
Oh, great.
And
like a pork
whoops. Yeah, that's the first time I'm going, whoops. I better
hurt. Can you make
Can I ask another question? Type of a thing. And I turn to them and says, well, if I go back, but in this condition, I'm not going to be of benefit to myself or anyone else for that matter. I need some help. And you know what they said? It's, as you know, it's just so simple and efficient in spirit. They go, fine. That's it. The last thing I hear from them is fine. And I come back to my body. Oh, gee, my heart's started back up and I'm going, okay, whoa. Then I realized, the pain's still there, but more manageable. I had so much more energy. And it was like I was reborn as a total baby in a much older body. And I'm going, well, okay. And then a voice in my ear says, go to your computer and look up this and that. And I followed instructions. And actually I found an advertisement online that led to a herbal supplement that really had started the beginning of helping me out in getting through all this stuff.
Wow. What was it?
It was called Gout Cure.
Are you serious? And it was an herbal remedy?
Yeah. And the company was so new at that moment that the founder, it was a very, simple website. The founder wrote everything apparently. And I read about his experience and he had it almost as bad as I did.
Wow.
And he came to, I realized, oh, out of the 5 ingredients in his herbal supplement, I knew intuitively 4 of those. I've been trying to put it in my diet just on my own intuition. And I thought, okay, I better check this out. We start corresponding by email because it was such a new company. He wrote back and walked me through to the place where I can start to manage a little bit more. And then it led to this and that and much more of a healing. But so when I came back, they also afterwards, my guides came and said, okay, your slate is completely clean. You don't owe anything. You don't owe anything to anybody. This is like a clean slate. And I said, well, I still have a lot of commitments I made in the past that I like to finish up. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, you don't have to. If you walk away from it and just tell people, you quit, no problem, no karmic repercussions, nothing, you're all done. And I said, but is it okay if I decide to finish those? And they said, fine, that's your call. So I did. It took me exactly 2 years to finish up all the past stuff and have a chance to start letting people know, hey, I'm going to walk away from giving private sessions, healing, reading type sessions. And I remember the day I said, I'm done. Okay, now I can totally start with a new agenda, new plan. And so I finished one day. The next day, I'm invited to another spiritual healer, author, speaker's birthday party that another friend of ours who had a healing center about an hour away in another state at that time and said, gee, it would be great if you and Raphael could come. So we go over for the evening. It's a good party and everything, a lot of wonderful people. And now they're singing happy birthday to this guy. Somebody, without telling me, figured out my birthday was going to be in 4 days after that. Oh. So then they scrambled and sent somebody to the bakery and got another cake. So after we sang the birthday song for this guy, he blew out his candles. All of a sudden, there's another big cake with, when you're like 50 something, the number of candles on a birthday cake, it's like a forest fire coming towards me. I'm thinking I should get a fire extinguisher, right?
Well, you know what? You could just get what they have letters. You put 5.
Yeah, 5.
Or you know what? A friend of mine did. I went to her 50th birthday party, and I mean, she's one of those that bloom later, and she looks terrific. And she had 39 on the candles, 39. As a candle.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I went, what? And she just started laughing. She goes, 39. That's where I'm staying. I was like, okay, then. It was all over the house, 39.
Yeah. So when the person just puts the cake in my face with all the burning candles, and she goes, okay, you know what to do. You have to close your eyes and make a wish and blow out the candles. Okay, I'm going along. Close my eyes and I go, I make a wish. I said, I thought, this is an opportunity. Everything in life is an opportunity, right? So this is an opportunity. I have the support of all these good people. And I go, what would I really like to wish? Not some frivolous, off the top of my head thing. So I contemplated that for a second. Next thing, my whole mind goes completely blank. It's completely empty of any thought, any feeling, anything. But it's just like still and infinite. And then from the middle of it, this most incredible golden glow of light starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and starts to fill up the space. And
at the party, you're having this
right in the middle.
Bi-dimensional 2 things going on at once. I get that. Yep. Okay, go ahead.
And then they're all waiting for me to, open my eyes and blow out the candle. So this is happening in a very, very short period of time. And then when this golden fills up, I realize, oh, yes, I wish to embody the Christ energy consciousness more. Mm-hmm. And I thought, that's a great wish for a birthday. So I decided that, opened my eyes, blew out the candle, everybody clapped and sang me happy birthday, and I thought that was that. Meanwhile, back in about 30, 40 feet away, Raphael's talking with the host of the party, who's the healer, and he had just shown her his main healing chapel and told her this whole big story about him having a heart attack. And when his girlfriend called the paramedics, he locked the door from the inside so he wouldn't let anybody in, because he knew he had to go through it for himself and he couldn't have any interference. And he was saying, hey, here I am. I'm perfectly fine. So she's going, why is he telling me all this? Meanwhile, when she sees me blow out the candle, she's clairvoyant. She sees me completely leaving the body. And she goes, oh, no.
She had a vision.
Yeah, she had a vision. I'm going to die. And she says, no, that can't happen.
But she didn't stay dead. And that's the main thing.
Yeah, see. And so she kept that to herself because she didn't want to jinx it or anything. So we go home that night and everything's great. Had a good time. The next morning, on the astral, out of my body, I teach every night. And as spirit.
Oh, I know. We've been chatting.
Yeah, about that.
About cherry blossoms. And then Michael shows up today with cherry blossoms, and I wear cherry blossoms. So I know about this. Yes, I do.
Yes. So we get around, it's in the body. I might be a little slow, but out of the body.
Oh yeah, man. I do a lot at night. I wake up exhausted sometimes. I do a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So how do we get paid for that part, right? No, actually,
well, we get paid
by total being taken care of.
Well, you know what? I think my blessings.
Yeah,
I do. I used to kid and say Jesus brownie points, and people got kind of, I think thought that was disrespectful. I was just laughing, but I think we get that through bypassing a lot of anguish in this world.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I've always felt being blessed that I was able to work through stuff by working with other people, looking at their problems and everything. And I didn't have to go through that. I'd look at it and go, whoa.
Oh my God.
Because I had to learn in order to communicate with people. I had to learn what they were going through and be able to guide them through those challenges. And by the time I do that, the saying Jesus taught his disciples, he said, before you reach in and take the sliver out of the other person's eye, you have to take the log out of your own eye.
Oh, yes.
That's one of the most important instructions for any healer of any kind.
Or what he's told me, he said, anyone that speaks harshly to someone needs to hold a mirror up to their face first.
Yes. But you have to find what I call that is matching pictures. The log and the sliver is what upsets us in another person. That's what we have the same stuff.
That's right.
But we cover it over differently than the other person. Well, so if we're really afraid of something, the other person's really afraid, and we see that, because, oh, you're so scaredy cat, blah, blah, blah. But we don't see it a lot of times because that other person deals with that fear in themselves completely almost like opposite from how we deal it. So we look at the outside of how we deal with the fear and we go, oh, we're nothing like, we're like day and night between you and me. But if we looked at the inside, the fear is the same. It's just we cover it up differently. We deal with it differently, right? So then the further you go inside, you start to realize, oh, we're the same. We're really the same. It's just the outside and how we decide to do it and what kind of choices we made about the same stuff is different. So anyway, so this leads to the next morning. I'm in the spirit realm. I'm in this total, absolute bliss, limitless consciousness, golden light, everything. It's just.
I like the golden light. I like bringing it. You can bring, I like that. That's good stuff.
Then I start to slowly become aware that I'm waking up in the body here in this world. In the next morning, I'm just lying in bed. Raphael's already up, taking care of the dog and cat. And I hear the clanking and everything. I said, oh, that's pleasant. I start to notice, oh yeah, there's the world, there's a body, a life. I have to come back to here. And then once I start to notice that, I go, oh, I have an important appointment at the office this morning at 10 o'clock. And this was 8:30 or so. And so I better get dressed and shower all the morning stuff. So I get out of bed. I start walking toward the shower and something hits. It felt like, and the experience was like somebody threw me into the middle of a cosmic washing machine.
Wow.
I couldn't tell which way was up, this lights and sound. It's just like, whoa. Just then, Raphael runs into the bedroom and says, looks at me and says, oh my God, what's wrong? Are you having a heart attack? I thought, right in the middle of this whole thing, I'm going, that's a silly thing to say.
So you didn't know you were having a heart attack?
Yeah, I didn't know until 4.5 hours later.
So what were the first symptoms? You had no clue?
Well, for 3 years, I was a nurse from 18, 19, 20. Yeah, 18, 19, 20 years old. I was a LVN, licensed vocational nurse. So I reached back to my training from that and go, heart attack. It didn't seem, that sounded so out of context, but I thought, what's the symptomology? And first I looked at the symptomology we learned about what you tell lay people of it feels like an elephant sitting on your chest.
Yeah, sure.
And so I pictured, this is the way I work. I pictured
here we go.
Of course, it's going to be a pink elephant, right? Not just
yes, of course, yes.
Pink cartoon elephant sitting on my chest, and I'm going.
That's how I think too.
That doesn't work. That doesn't fit. I don't have that kind of a pink. And then so I switched to the medical symptomology at that time. Now it's changed a lot, but at that time it was standard. If somebody's having a heart attack, the main symptoms are radiating pain down the left arm and a crushing chest pain. And I'm going, do I have either of that? No, didn't have either of that. What was I having? Well, what I was aware of is just this intense level of Kundalini energy, just taking off like a rocket ship.
But you probably like that though.
Well, that part was fine, but how it was translating in this body was something was really amiss. So it's just going. And so I said to Raphael, I said, you know what? I don't think I have a heart attack going on, but I would like a healing. So she goes, okay, right away. She goes into the living room, sits down, starts to work on me on a healing level. And she said, I dressed up and came out and started circling the living room. She said it was the strangest thing. She said, I started circling the living room, chanting the Jewish prayer for the dead.
Okay.
All right. I said, well, for one thing, I said, I don't know the Jewish prayer for the dead.
Right.
I don't speak Hebrew or anything like that. And you don't either. And she goes, well, yeah, that's the thing. Just 3 nights ago, I was home when you were out doing something, and I turned on the TV and it had a whole documentary about that. That's the only reason I recognize it. Sounded, what's this sound like? And she said, it sounded exactly like the chant they were doing, and said this was the Jewish prayer for the dead. Well, I was going to go see a man from Israel at 10 o'clock for about a world foundation that he and his Palestinian best buddy were creating to be able to help educate and heal the children of the world.
Beautiful.
Instead of having, it started with the Palestinian kids and the Israeli kids learning to hate each other right from birth. And they said, we can't let that continue. So they start this whole foundation.
Wonderful.
So I thought, I can't miss that, right? So I'm still thinking about, I need to get it together to go there. But I said, I need to get some sunshine. For some reason, I said, I got to go outside. I looked outside. We had this beautiful verdant grass lawn area. I needed to be there, the sun shining. It was like an absolute spotless day. So I sat there, I went there, and then I kind of collapsed on my knees and face forward down. This wasn't my near-death experience. This was just still, I was,
And well, we can talk about spiritual, spiritually transformative experiences or
yeah.
Kundalini. All that's part of the awakening. It's very
So
important.
what leads to my near-death experience is more of the big stuff. The near-death experiences, I'll tell you about it in just a second. So this time, my body's kind of there. I'm half conscious of my body, but I'm mostly out in spirit, and I'm surrounded by 12 incredible beings. 5 of whom were the same as the other 5 that I met in my first near-death experience.
Did they have in white robes?
Nope, this time they were all different. And the first time too, they were all different.
Okay.
The angel was complete pure white.
White.
And first, they always show up as light. And then if they're going to communicate or spend any kind of a level with me on a more human level, then they appear as people.
People.
Yeah. So then they're there, and my first thought is, thank God you're here. I had this vision that, oh yeah, they're going to swoop in and deal with this, whatever, right? Help me out. And they very lovingly and politely step back like 20 steps backwards, not forwards to swoop down. Far from it, they're stepping away. And unanimously, they're telepathing to me and saying, we can't interfere. This is for you. This is your time to make a very important choice about life. That's all they would tell me.
Wow.
And do you know, I mean, how difficult it is when you're having a middle of a heart attack to even, consider stuff.
Right. Big decision.
So I'm going, okay. And now I'm going back to my first near-death experience and going, okay, I made the decision along with their advice that if I came back, I could do a lot more. Yes. So this is not my time. I mean, I didn't have a problem if I keeled over and died, but I'm not supposed to. I've already made the commitment to stay now for me to stay another period of time.
Right. And imagine how upset your wife would be.
Yeah. Well, I didn't imagine that at that point.
Well, I'm just kidding, but he was like,
that comes a little bit later.
We have some things to do still.
Exactly. And so then I'm thinking like, okay, what are some choices? And I realized I had to have a starting point on what would most people think, right? They go, oh, call 911 or not. Or do you want to live or die? And I said, no, those are all not my choices. I don't have those choices. And so if I already know life has no opposites. It's not die or live. It's just you have life. And I said, oh, so what's a choice for me about life? And I realized right there, oh, I have to really live this life, not as this life from birth to death, even if I know I keep on going on. I still am living for this lifetime in this body.
Yes.
I haven't made the decision to live the eternal life here.
You mean all lifetimes? Oh,
no, just life, period. And I said, okay, if I make that decision, to live eternal life here, what's that look like? What's that entail?
Heaven on earth kind of thing.
Then I realized I could no longer impose any of my conditions on life. Right? Eternal life has no conditions.
Wow. Yes. Absolutely.
And so if I decide to, because as long as I'm living from birth till death do us part kind of a thing, I'm going, okay, things get too tough, or I don't like the direction this is going. Okay, take me out. You're done. But you're not done, right? It's just
you're never done.
For that period, for that lifetime, for that incarnation, you're done. But you come back. And so I'm going, oh, geez. So what does it mean if I can't impose my conditions on life? There's no more, well, if it's a sunny day, I'll do it, but not if it's raining. If I like you, I'll talk to you, but not if I don't like you. All that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Those are all conditions we impose Life doesn't say that. We impose it. I'm going, okay, what if? So I start to look at, in my particular situation, okay, as far as being here, continuing physically, or leaving and being in spirit, I don't have a problem with that. Either side, I don't have a problem with. But I looked at, what do I have a problem with?
Okay.
Oh, if I return here, and what if I could no longer walk? What if I could no longer talk?
Right.
What if
Condition.
I could no longer see? What if I could no longer take care of myself, and I'm got somebody else having to take care of me physically?
Right. Right.
Whoa,
Oh, yeah.
that, I mean,
don't like
death
that
was no
either.
problem.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
sticking around in
Exactly.
a compromised situation,
That's right.
that was hard to swallow. So I'm looking at that,
Ooh.
and I realize I have to make this decision sooner or later.
You
I can
mean
postpone it for
regardless?
another, yeah.
Wow.
I could postpone this another lifetime, or another 2 or 10 or 100 lifetimes. And a lot of people do. But sooner or later, I have to make this choice.
Right.
So I'm one of those, well, if it's sooner or later, I might as well make it now. So I said, okay, I'm ready to make that choice. And then as soon as I made that choice, all the masters were gone, and I can sit up again, and I go, whoa, it's like this whole, everything lifted. Everything was incredibly bright. I had enough energy to run upstairs. I was in the back downstairs. I run upstairs to where Raphael was, sat down for the last part of her finishing up the healing. And I said, thank you very much. And now could you take me to the office, because I don't feel strong enough to drive myself 2 minutes to get to the town office. And she says, well, of course, I'll drive you. On the way is when she's sneaky like this. She goes, okay, well, I could swing by the ER, and just to make sure, let's have you checked out. And when I looked, finally, I got a green light for that. Before that, just like the other guy that she told me about later on, I had to go through this on my own with no intervention so that I can make the choice. If I was in the middle of a ER, they'd be, plugging me up and doing all kinds of stuff, and it would have made it difficult. But now it's okay. The coast is clear. So I said, yeah, let's go to the ER. We walk in. The first thing I learned is, if you really need to go get checked out at the ER, don't walk in, come in an ambulance.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, because if you walk in, and especially if you're laughing like I was,
oh boy,
they don't
take you seriously.
No. And so we walk in together, Raphael and I, and Raphael, of course, is very, concerned, really concerned. I'm laughing and say, hey, this is great. And the triage nurse comes and says, looks at both of us back and forth, which one of you is in trouble? And she's looking at Raphael, thinking that that's who needs to be looked at. And Raphael says, my husband, I think he's having a heart attack. And even at that, they didn't rush me into the exam. If he's laughing and standing and walking, he can't really be having a heart attack, right? So she goes, okay. What she says is, calls into the back, we got another chest pain. And she says, you can't believe this morning, in the last 20 minutes, you're the 5th person. And we have 4 other people right before you with walking in, having chest pains. And I said, how were they? Oh, they were all fine. The last one was this young man, and turns out to be one of my students. He says, he was healthier than a horse. His heart is better than an athlete's. And so she says, yeah, so you whatever is affecting everybody, I think you'll probably, be fine. Finally, the ER doc calls me in, and I get escorted into the exam room, and she's just casually talking, and I'm casually talking with her, and she says, well, and I said, yeah, something about the pain. He says, oh, well, how long have you had this pain? And I said, well, and I realized I don't know what time it is. No sense of time, because I'm really in spirit, right? And so, so then I said, what time is it now? And she goes, it's 12:30. And I go, oh, this started 8:30. When I looked at the clock, when it was starting, it was 8:30 this morning. And then she freaks out. Oh my God. And she hollers out all these orders, and people put these lines and pads and everything on me all over the place. I'm lying down. And then she sees the EKG chart, the graph, and then she runs to the phone and starts talking to some cardiologist in a different hospital. I was way far gone that they didn't have whatever it took to
Dear
handle me
God.
at
You're,
that
you're
little.
laughing the whole time.
Yeah, and I'm going, okay. And then this was the real punchline for me. She comes in with a clipboard. She's like really, like intent, right?
Okay.
And she's talking a mile a minute. She's, well, look at this EKG. She shows me on the machine and says, that's called a tombstone. And that's because, tombstones after you're dead. And everybody who has this dies. And she says, so I need you to sign this waiver because I'm going to give you this medication that's so strong that it has a 50% chance of killing you.
What?
I just blurted out laughing at that point. I says, did you hear what you just said to me? And she's like, what's this guy laughing about? This is no laughing matter. And I said, I'm still alive pretty well, right? I may be having a heart attack, but I'm still alive.
Yeah.
I'm breathing and talking. She goes, yeah. And I said, if I sign this, are you going to take 50% of my chance of continuing to live away from me?
Yeah.
And she goes, no. She says, what I'm trying to tell you is if you take this medication, there's a 50% chance of you dying. If you don't take this, you have 100% definite, absolute chance of dying in the next few minutes.
Holy crap.
I said, oh, fine. Why didn't you say that?
I'll take it.
So I said, and meanwhile, I'm seeing the divine orchestration, the divine choreography of everything. It's just beautiful. Every person that was there in that emergency room, from the doctor on, had their guides, angels, healing masters. Everyone's doing their thing. And it's just like this swan lake of cosmic proportions happening. I'm in God's hands. What would I be worried about, right? It's just like, okay, whatever you do is fine. Wow. I said, you're the doctor, you're the expert, you decide, I'll sign whatever. And so I signed it. She injects me. 30 seconds later, I can feel that whatever potent drug that was going through the system clear up something. So it felt a little more calm and a little more inside, the pain subsided and so I'm not dead. So this is good. Well, hour and a half later, they had to even get an ambulance and a paramedic crew from the other hospital an hour and a half away because they didn't have people trained and they didn't have equipment to keep me alive to the cardiologist in the other hospital, bigger city hospital. Yeah, we were in the boonies.
Oh, I'm going to say, were you in the sticks here?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was a smaller hospital.
Yeah, much smaller hospital. And so then they finally arrived. And boy, the relief of that ER doctor, once she passed me on to the next people, she did not want to lose me on her watch, right? And so once the transfer was made and I'm being moved into the ambulance, she relaxes and she laughs for the first time and says, Mr. Tamura, I've never had a patient like you. I never met a person in the middle of this extended, serious heart attack, laughing and talking as if everything is fine. And I said, well, everything is fine. I said, if I die or live, it's still fine. And it's not if I had died on your watch, it wasn't your fault. And so she says, I think I'm going to have to go take a break. So then I got shoveled into the ambulance and I have this young guy and tending to me. And I look up at his angelic face and I thought, God, he couldn't be more than a high school sophomore, right?
Oh, he looks super young.
He looks so young. And so I'm talking to him. I said, how long have you been a paramedic? He said, oh, next week I'm going for the exams to get my paramedic graduate from my
Oh,
paramedics class.
mhm,
So
mhm.
he wasn't even a full paramedic yet. And I thought, oh, this is good. Both Raphael and I always get first day on the job, the trainee, whatever, in whatever we do, because we're easy, right? We're not going to sue them. We're not going to kill them. We're not going to
Right.
beat them up. And so I said, oh, good. Because the other part is he's so on it. A veteran
Yeah.
starts to get a little bit more casual, and they're not paying attention to every little
Yeah,
thing.
maybe a little jaded, but young
Yeah.
people, they're like, yay, I'm so
Yeah.
excited. I really want to do a good job.
So the veterans in the front of the thing, his mentor and the driver are talking about golf games and whatever else they talk about, but he's right on it. And he's starting to sweat because he knows I'm touch and go. So I tried to reassure him and I said, hey, don't worry. I'm not going to croak on you. That's when I flatlined. Of course,
Last words.
I heard those words coming out of my mouth, and then next thing I'm floating out above the through the roof of the ambulance. I go up into the sky. It was a gorgeous day. And then I look down, and there's Raphael driving, white knuckling on her SUV, going 75 miles an hour up this mountain mountain pass, trying to keep up with the ambulance, right?
Wow.
So I'm so happy. I'm going, oh, hi, sweetheart.
You look so cute there, a little worried, but
exactly. And I'm just going, whoa, everything's so bright and she's so cute. And then, of course, she's very, very clairvoyant and psychic. She feels my attention first and she looks up and then she sees me. And I'm not thinking, I'm just me, right?
Yeah.
She's thinking, if he's up there as spirit, oh,
crap.
What's
going on inside this ambulance?
Yeah. Oh no. And so she literally takes her fist and she starts shaking her fist physically at me up in the sky.
She does get mad. I told you.
Oh
get
yeah,
back in your body right now.
And so
I have a to-do list waiting for you.
Exactly. But I extrapolate and insert my idea of what she's saying at that point, and so I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is serious. She's going, if you don't come back right now, I'm going to kill you. And I go, so I remember thinking, okay, when I come back and I see her after everything's done with, I'm going to tell her that the only reason I came back was I was afraid you were going to kill me if I died. So then what happens is right after that, I'm laughing still. And then next thing I'm in a total celestial realm. And right above me, I see these 5 golden beings, huge, radiant golden beings, and kind of a semicircle. One of them steps down, starts coming down toward me, and about halfway to me, she turns into this beautiful female angelic presence with, hair and a robe and everything. And I remember looking right in her face, and she was the most compassionate, gentle, beautiful being. And she puts her hand like this over my chest on the astral body. And she looks at me like I'm a little kid and says, not yet. So of course, what could I say? I said, yeah, I know, I got caught. I'm going to be sent back to the principal's office. And so she starts gently pushing me back, smiling. And I thought, gosh, she looks like, if I'm going to describe this to people when I get back, what does she remind me of? And her face was like the cosmic form of Mona Lisa. The smile was like a Mona Lisa smile, and a dark long hair. And then, but the whole presence was like that woman that holds the torch, like the Statue of Liberty on the beginning of I think it's the Columbia Pictures movies. Yeah, there's that first opening scene with the
of course.
Yeah. So I thought if you combine the two, you got a general idea of what this angel looked like to me.
Yes.
And then she pushes me back down the roof of the ambulance and then click right into my body. And as
Click,
soon as,
like a snap-on
yeah,
toy.
I'm one of those
Put
easy.
the soul, click right into this
Exactly.
body.
It's not like trying to put together furniture and can't understand the instructions. It's like, just snap to.
Snap to. It's like a click. I like that. Well, it's
And
funny.
so once that happens, I open my eyes and I'm looking right at the young paramedic. He's got his paddles all ready to go because I had flatline. So
Right.
I couldn't have been gone very long at all, right? Because between the flatlining
got
and I
it.
went out and
Right.
him getting the paddles ready, and he hadn't shocked me yet.
I hear you. So all that happened within, who knows,
Yeah.
on the other side, you
Seconds.
could be there days or years. It could happen seconds.
Yeah, there's no time.
Yeah. So, wow. So in between, that's so cool. I like
So
that.
that was the actual near death, the dying and coming back experience for that situation. But everything else was, the important stuff that led to it.
And I think this is an important part. I think so much if we get so hung up and there's, gosh, I'm sure you have, I have. Tell me about the near-death experience. It wasn't, to me, we're not that moment. It's the thing leading up to it. It's decisions leading
And
up to it. It's who
afterward.
you are afterwards, and all of that. It's
Yep.
and usually it's precipitated by a lot of spiritual conversations. Either if it's not with some people may just remember it as being with themselves or things they
Mhm.
thought or alluded to, or it could be the situation in life at that point. But one thing that I will say, you have to, and I agree with you, you have to be careful. If you're at a point where you're like, I've just had it, God hears that.
Oh, yeah, no question about that.
Here's that. And it's and I think it goes deeper, like, okay, well, why am I really here? Am I just here to be born and die? Or am I here just to collect things? Golly, we've had so many lives. We've done this thing so many times. I mean, it's like a freaking soul treadmill. I mean, we just keep getting back in bodies. Here's another model. That's why I can't understand why we have such, where I can't understand at all why there's differences in people and racism or this or that. I'm like, you were that. It's like the father is like, I hope you don't marry that Mexican. Well, you're going to be the Mexican next life.
Exactly.
We've been everything, male, female, poor, rich, blah, blah. And so to me, I'm like, I don't know, when we're saying this is something for people to think about. What do you want out of this life? What do you want? And, again, you want your needs met, of course, you want that. But I think even the amount of struggling, I think there's some people that come here that I want to participate, but not too much.
Yes.
And there's others that, like yourself, one quick other point. I love what you mentioned about, I don't want to have to experience, divorce or pain or this or that in this way. I'll just learn by helping people.
Yep. And really, that's the key, is ultimately, it's not about what you want, what any of us wants. Because if you really examine desire, you'll find that we never want anything we already have, right? It's if we have something in abundance, we never think, oh, I really want that. No, we know we have it. And when we have something, this is normal and natural for every one of us. When we have something in a lot of abundance, what do? We share it, right? I mean, even if you sell it, you make it a whole bunch of them and you sell it, it's a form of sharing. You get something back for it, but you're giving it, you're offering it to other people. And whether it's communication or objects or whatever it is, when you have in abundance, there's not a iota of desire. So but in life, most of us start off that way thinking, what is it I want? What do I want to be if you grow up? Well, I remember being asked that as a child from adults. What do you want to be when you grow up? And I go, what a strange question. I know when I grow up, I'm just going to be me, more of
That's exactly
who I am.
right.
And I finally realized by the time in later grade school, people kept on asking me that. And I thought, oh, maybe they're talking about what kind of a path of, career path type of a thing. What are you going to
Mm-hmm.
do with yourself when you grow up? So I thought, I'll think of what I can tell them. But this thing is just really being able to, if we don't create life from the basis of what we want, what do we create life from? Is from the basis of what we have, and
Right.
especially what we have in abundance. So, for example, a lot of incredible performers, singers, entertainers, actors and actresses, and whatever, they have a lot of sometimes joy, the
Mm-hmm.
enjoyment of life, the
Mm-hmm.
fun of life, or they have, what do they have to share is lessons in life, when
Right.
you're going through difficult times, and they play the parts or sing the songs of heartaches and
True.
difficulties. And so, and a lot of those people know from the time they're a child, all I want to do is, when I grow up, I'm going to be doing this. They might say, I want to, but you'll notice they're coming from a place of, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I have to share with everybody, with the world.
Right.
And so
Right.
when a person looks within themselves and starts to examine, what do I have already? Not when I'm better,
Right.
not when I'm
Right.
perfect, but right
Innately, you
now,
mean?
yeah,
Innately.
innately from the time I could remember, what is it that I have the most to offer? And the only thing that prevents people from recognizing that is looking at themselves through not rose-colored glasses, but looking at themselves through dark glasses and going,
Mm.
oh, I'm just an average
Mhm.
person. I don't have anything special. They're looking for something special and spectacular. They're not looking for what they have. And when they find what they have, they're going to find it's so valuable. And it's not going to be something that's readily available to a lot of other people. Right? It's like if it were more external academic stuff, if a person is mathematically inclined, very
Yes.
capable in mathematics, then, but a lot of people have trouble with math.
Yeah.
Oh,
Not really interested in it.
yeah. So
I mean,
so
except
a
for
person like
balancing a
that, yeah,
checkbook.
exactly. And same with healing.
Mm-hmm.
You find, oh, I have a lot of healing to offer.
Mm-hmm.
But most people, like me, I didn't know what healing meant when I was a kid. That wasn't in my vocabulary. I didn't know what psychic meant. That wasn't in my vocabulary.
Right.
So I had to find those words first and then go, oh, that's what I've always had.
Well, a lot of people, I think that's a very good point. A lot of people are walking around, what's my purpose? What's my life path? And the fact is, I always say, you're here right now. God put you here. They don't make mistakes. And you have everything within you. Now, that's not to say you might want to read books, you might want to study, you might want to follow that trail of breadcrumbs, but you already have that. And even if all that someone ever did was to love other people, I mean, there's people that have great patience and compassion, like nurses or people in the healing type field. I know I have to work on, I get impatient like a little kid. I'm like, it won't work. My toys don't work. I get impatient and I have to work on that. Whereas somebody else, when I see they're so kind and patient, I see that as a beautiful attribute. But then other people go, well, you're patient with people and spending, a long time talking with them. I'm like, well, that's different. But we all carry something that we're good at. And I think that you had a good point when you were talking about people and what's in them. And I think that part of an ability is to see that brightness, that special quality in people. And I've always had that, and I try to encourage it. And I try to do that also on the show because I see that spark in them. And sometimes I'll be even a little pushy. I'll go, have you thought about maybe looking into this? Or yeah. And they go, that's a great idea. And I'm like, oh boy, they don't know yet. They're going to be so good at this. But it's usually sitting right there as a gift. I mean, we come in with everything that we need, not that we have to work hard toward like I said,
Mhm.
learning and life is not always easy. But what makes me sad, and after doing, so many readings of as psychic meeting and so forth, I find there's a
Mhm.
commonality of a lack of self-love. And it makes me so sad
Mm.
because I see the beauty in people and I'm like, you're beautiful, you're great, you're perfect
Mhm.
just the way you are. Just go for it. Just live the life you want. And I have the sign in my living room and it says, live the life and love the life. What is it? Live the life you love. And I have it right there. And I feel like everybody should do that because we
Yep.
have to interject our own joy, or better yet, you can get some of that golden white light God stuff. That's really good. You can visualize. You don't have to die. Nobody's going to die here. Not that there's really a death, but you can just visualize it and like just sitting in gratitude.
Yep.
And say, give
Yeah,
me
and
some of that.
exactly like what you just said of live the life you love. That is basically the distinction I was making with the live the life you want. It's live the life you love. That's entirely different than what you want.
Very
The
different.
life you love, you already have it, right? Inside of yourself. Maybe it's not in the world yet, but it's inside. And so, and you mentioned the nurses and the compassion and the kindness. Sometimes, that comes first. When you're in a dire emergency, yes, you need the medical treatment or you need the emergency measures to keep you alive or whatever, or keep you from losing your limb or whatever it is. But before that, you need somebody to hold your hand or say,
Yes.
okay, whether you live or die, whatever happens,
Right.
it's still okay. That's what compassion does. And what we have within us is exactly like you said. It's basically, it boils down to that unconditional love. That's what we're here to share.
It is.
The only thing anybody has to be creative and imaginative about is, how do I want to share?
Yeah. How do they express that love?
Yeah. How do you express that love?
Right.
That's the
the
only
key.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Right.
core of it it's the same for everybody.
You're right. It could be through children. It could be through art, through music, whatever it may be. Jesus told me something this past summer, and I thought that's really good. He said, "Be the love you were created to be."
Mhm.
And if you think about that, that's not really that easy. If you really kind of, take that in. And so I always say that we have a fan club in heaven because when you, as you mentioned, you have all your elders, all your guides, all your angels, and we've all got them too.
Mhm.
And some people, if you can't see them, that's okay. But sometimes you can feel them. Sometimes you can feel that love draw close to you. And I do that sometimes with people with exercises. So I'll say, feel your guardian angel. And I'll say, imagine someone who's passed you love. And that you can feel the love is different from each source. So they could begin feeling the love differently. It's still love, but we're not put here alone. Not only, people, God gives us people here to help us through. And then he also gives us our team God, that's helping us, our staff.
Yep.
Our holy staff. And I don't mean staff. I mean staff, like a lot of people.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know. I might have a holy staff by the fireplace. So I'm just kidding.
You have both, right? You have the staff to shake at the staff.
Yeah,
say,
like,
hey,
what?
if you don't help me now.
I have done that before. Like, what's going on? But it's true. They do have a sense of humor over there. And I feel like that it's funny because I've, with other mediums and channelers before in the past, like we've done like soul readings where you're doing the guides coming through and all that. And some of them are very serious in a particular way because that person is.
Yep.
Where mine are like, must have been old Scottish drunks or something because they're like, hey, listen to this one. And they're like really colorful. And but your team is positioned exactly to what you would understand in your personality, which is amazing to me. So gosh knows your team I think we share some of the same team. So
Yeah, in the bigger scheme of things, it's like one happy family.
it is
Yeah.
totally one happy family. It's funny. I did a meditation once, and it was actually at one of the afterlife conferences, and a friend of mine said, "Hey, I'm going to be doing something at this Unity Church, a meditation. It's going to be really awesome." I thought, "Oh, well, so, should I go?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why not?" Okay, so it was after most of the event, so it was 3 of us that came, and we got an Uber. We went to this tiny little. I'm like, "Where the heck is this thing?" It was like the smallest little Unity Church. And we did this meditation, man. It was so good. I got so high, but we did this meditation, like on the meditation, and and you were supposed to write your name in the sand. This you're walking through, you relax, all this, and write your name. You walk up to the ocean, which I like the ocean, and I'm looking, and you see the sand, feel it between your toes. Write your name. Okay, so that's kind of big. Like you own who you are this time. Okay, I got that. Then there's a boat out there for you. I want you to walk out there, and they're going to put a ladder down, and I want you to walk up into the boat, get up in the boat, and see who's there to greet you. It was a lot of people I did not expect. I
Yeah.
had, first of all, Jesus like, "Hey," and he goes, I said, "Where's the lifeboats?" He goes, "Oh, no one needs saving here." I thought that was really funny. Is that funny? That was funny. And then I go in, and it's a big feast. It was a big table. And I had a couple relatives, but primarily they were like all different nationalities. The one that struck me the most was Confucius.
Yes.
And I'm like, "I recognize you." And different time periods, and they were all there, and it was like a party. And it was a party.
Yes,
So what do you want to talk about? It was like a party.
yeah, that's how I experienced it over there a lot of times. It's just like a great party.
Well, and
And
the other thing is you don't have to die to experience that.
yeah, I've had that the last time I got surgery and was not, put under anesthesia. It was hilarious. It was a surgery that I didn't really need. It was a mechanical malfunction in the ICD device that I have. After the third death, my cardiologist said, we're gonna just help you out a little bit.
Really?
but
So
this
3 heart attacks? Okay, so you have a little thing there.
Well, the third one wasn't even a heart attack. He said, I have no idea what happened to you, but your heart just stopped right in the middle of when I was the most physically fit, healthiest that I've been in my life.
Is
including,
this the story
yeah.
you were telling me? Can we, I know we're gone just a hair over, but can you just give, just because it's not funny, just a little taste of that to people?
Yeah,
we're going to have you back on because you're just too much fun. There's too much there. I can't keep you for myself. I got to share you with the world. So, and hopefully Raphael will come back too. But so if you could give us like a little nugget of that, and then we'll wrap it up because I know that we have other
Yes, other commitments. And so that one, I'm in the best shape of my life because I've been healing myself on a body level as well as everything else from the prior 2 near-death experiences and 2 heart attacks right before. So I'm off of all medications. I'm this, that, everything's going great. I feel fantastic. I have more energy, more endurance, more everything on every level. I'm at the gym continuing this process because, I've been told exercise is good for you, right?
Yeah, that's what I've heard too.
So I'm on the elliptical machine on the 2nd floor of this big gym, local gym where I used to live. And I don't remember anything from here, right? But the hearsay, the story I was told by eyewitnesses, bunch of eyewitnesses on different levels, was apparently right in the middle of exercising full steam ahead on the elliptical, this little man walks up to the 2nd floor of the aerobics room. Nobody else is in there. And he comes up because he's got to do physical therapy or something. And then as he comes up to the 2nd floor, he sees me just bang, wham, collapse right in this high-speed elliptical.
It was too much going on there, I guess.
And then, he's a slow old guy. So he slowly goes down because he's the only one who can go tell somebody. And so he walks downstairs, finally gets there, finally finds the manager of the place, who was a friend of mine. She knew me quite well. And so then she knew I was the only one up there. So she put two and two together. She freaked out. She's reaching for the phone while in her open office, the phone's a cordless phone. Somebody lifted it and took it somewhere while they were talking and didn't bring it back. So she's running around this big, many-roomed gym, and then she's hollering for help. And it just so happens her son, who was in college studying to be a paramedic, he was already a licensed, just like the other kid.
Oh yeah, newbie.
He was like a licensed medic, EMT, and studying for his paramedics license in college, and was home for the weekend to be with her. And he was there working out while he's waiting for her to be off shift, which was going to happen in a few minutes, to take her out to lunch. Meanwhile, I dropped dead. So when she yells out to him, because he's a medic, says, "Michael needs help upstairs." There's two upstairs to this place. He goes to the far upstairs because there was a lady there who had an epileptic seizure just the day before. So he thought, that's happening again. So she has to call him back from there. Meanwhile, she's still looking for the phone to call the ambulance, 911. She finally finds the phone. He finally gets over to the other side, and she calls the ambulance and everything and gives him explicit directions how to get where to park, because there's two big parking lots. Well, everything is like anything that can go wrong went wrong with everything else. Meanwhile, her son finds me tangled up in the electrical machine. He can't get me out by himself. He said I was in like a premature rigor mortis already.
Dear God.
And I was like, all contorted and everything inside this elliptical. He couldn't get me out.
Oh my
and
gosh.
He has to put me flat to do CPR, right? So he goes running back downstairs and hollers throughout the gym, "I need help. I need help. Any medics, anybody trained, anybody who can help me get this man out of the elliptical." Well, three big guys volunteer. They all run up. One of those guys is another medic, right? Another EMT. So, we're being looked out after every minute of every day.
Oh, yes.
So they come, and the four guys are able to straighten me out and pull me out of the electrical machine and finally flatten me out on the floor. So that's taken minutes to go by. And then they finally, he said I was deader than a doorknob. And so he starts CPR, but he couldn't get it going again. I wouldn't breathe. I wouldn't, my heart wouldn't kickstart. So they're doing this because he knows he has to manually do this until the paramedics with the defibrillator and everybody comes. Meanwhile, the ambulance doesn't come.
What happens?
The manager has to call them again, and they're right down the street, right? And something, miscommunication, whatever happens, the ambulance didn't even start. So she goes, "You're going to lose this guy. He needs to go to ER right now."
Yeah.
And his heart's, he's arrested. And so they said, "Well, send somebody right away." So she said it took over 12 minutes for them to arrive. And where do they park? Exactly the opposite of what she told them to do. So they come in from the first floor, and I'm on the second floor. Oh. They have this very slow lift for people in wheelchair to be wheeled up. Well, they're bringing the whole gurney and the whole kit and everything. There's no way to go up except by this little lift. Well, right as they were coming, this little old lady with her husband in a wheelchair that she has to push up to the second floor to do some kind of physical therapy.
Oh my God. This is just getting worse.
Doesn't hear the paramedics yelling at her saying, "Don't go, don't stop, get out of the way." She's just, I'm taking my husband upstairs. Gets in, pushes the button before anybody can prevent her from doing that. And this slow lift starts to slowly go up with her and her husband in a wheelchair. And the medics have to wait until it goes all the way up. One goes up, pushes the down button to come back down. put the gurney in with the defibrillator, everything, and they finally make it up there. So who knows how long I was dead. And they finally get to me and they said they defibrillated a couple of times and finally got the heart back.
Yeah.
But I'm completely out.
Okay.
And so then they rushed me to the ER. But again, it's the same hospital like before, the small town. So they have to call a helivac. And this is the part that was so funny. Raphael's like, we just got our kitty cats, little kittens.
Yeah.
And that was the moment that Raphael decided to let him out in the whole big house, 4,000 square foot house, for the very first time, because she was home and she can watch after them and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she lets him out. And she said the amazing thing was she was being told, don't open. She said she literally had to fight herself to be able to open the door. She couldn't open. And she's like, what's wrong with me? Finally opens it. The kids go running out, all disappear in the house. And she gets the call from the hospital. And the nurse lies to her, says, oh, your husband was exercising in the gym and he fainted.
Why would someone lie about something?
I have no idea. And it's no rush.
Strange.
Just, if you want to come and see him, we have him here. Well, she just calls all help and says, could you look after my cat, the house, everything? I got to just go. So she goes as soon as she can, gets there. By the time she gets there, these, what she said was these hunk of paramedics. It's like a scene out of a movie.
Like Magic Mike, these big hunks.
Yeah, exactly. Big hunk guys are carrying, gurning me. And she said,
oh my gosh. When
she saw me, she said it was extremely difficult. I was all gray. I'm wired up to the wazoo with tubes and everything everywhere, completely gone. It's just like a shadow of a body left. And she's going, holy moly. And so she knows how important it is to be up, in happy. And she just said, so she looked at the guys and she goes, oh yeah, I can tell him when he comes back, I can tell him that, I told him, hey, leave my husband here. You take me on the helivac. And she says she sort of had a little bit of amusement from
a little
joking with herself like that. But she wanted to ride with so that she can get there. But they said, no, he needs all the help he can get. That's why they had 6 people with me.
Oh, man.
And in the helicopter. So she had to drive and she drove straight to that same hospital, everything. And now, meanwhile, at the hospital, the cardiologist that I have, he's in private practice mostly, so he's not in hospitals most of the time. He just happens to have scheduled an elective surgery on one of his cardiac patients, a minor, elective surgery. He was all scrubbed up in the operating room with another patient, ready to start when he gets the PA systems. And Dr. Middleton, your patient, Michael Tamura, is being helivac, will arrive any minute now. And he says, oh my God, because we're friends, he really likes me, I like him. And so he goes to the guy right before he was put under. He says, I'm sorry, I have to reschedule you. I got an emergency coming in right now. Right. And they were very gracious. They said, okay, don't worry about it. And the person got taken out. And then I get brought in. He's already ready to start. He's not a surgeon, so he's not doing a full-on surgery. He's doing an exploratory to, find out what's going on. So he said, he told me later, he assumed I had another heart attack. But when he went in with the camera, he said, your heart was, there was not another heart.
What happened?
And he says, I have no idea what happened.
It just stopped?
It just stopped. It just stopped. And at that point, he's telling me later on, he says, I don't know about you. And he says, I've never been able to figure it out because here you have all these serious problems happening and you even die from it. And then but you should be like the poster child for Dr. Dean Ornich's heart healthy living style and program and diet and exercise, everything. He says, you're doing everything way beyond I expect any of my patients to do to have them get healthier.
Yeah.
You're far more than that. And yet you're the one that keeps, I get the call, your heart stopped, this all. And he says, I don't know. He says, in my esteemed medical opinion, he said, I think it's bad luck. So we get to joke around too. And so anyway, he's there and he finishes checking my heart out and he says, well, there's nothing I can do because nothing happened. And so he's taking the camera out. And as he's taking the camera out of that artery, he notices something and he goes over to another part. And just then this other artery, coronary artery, blew up. Now that's major catastrophe. So he goes, okay, now we need to open him up. He needs a real top rate thoracic.
At least he knew it happened then at that moment.
Oh yeah. If it didn't happen, and that's why
fine.
I got sent there, because if it happened at the gym or anywhere else, I'm not coming back. Right. So then, so he calls up and says, who's on call? Who's the best cardiac thoracic surgeon? And they're not just walking around hospitals with nothing to do. And he gets one. Turns out he's considered, the guy he found to operate on me is the father, what do you call it? The father of modern current open heart surgery. He's the guy who invented the way to do the open heart surgery where you don't have to plug the patient up on a heart-lung machine and stop their heart while they operate. You can have the heart still beating, and that he reduced the time from whatever, an 8-hour or 6-hour surgery down to like 3. Okay. And they said,
that's the way it used to be done.
Yeah. And they said, if it was anybody else there, they would have done it the old-fashioned way.
Wow.
Because you need to have a special training and everything to do it this way. Because it was him, he could do it the new way, and he didn't have to stop my heart. And both of them said, yeah, if we had to stop your heart, you would have been dead. You're not coming back. So
God is good. God had it all arranged.
It's miracles after miracles after miracles. And this stuff, it's all secondhand. I'm hearing it from other people. And so they pull me through, and I have this full-on open heart surgery and bypass and everything. And I come back, but it took me 6 days to come back.
Well, why is that? Just because you were so weak?
Well, part of it was dropping dead and weakened and everything, and the surgery, but anesthesia. And when I came back, Raphael was tending to me day and night at the hospital for 5 days. And she said, I had the memory span of at most 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes, I'd ask the same questions. She'd give me the same answers. And by the time she had to repeat it like 4 or 5 times, she decided to videotape the conversation so she could just play back the videotape. and I wouldn't even remember the videotape. And so she said it was scary, and she was really having to look at, God, my life with him is going to be one of, writing everything on a whiteboard so he can remember what we really talked about and stuff like that.
Which we're back to that thing you talked about with no conditions.
No conditions.
No conditions.
And so she's having to go through all that too, right? So I think it was probably a lot harder for her than for me.
Oh, sure. And
finally, when she took me home, the next day, I woke up in my bed with the sun streaming through, and I go, oh, I'm back again. And from then, I didn't have any trouble with the memory or anything like that. It's just, I wasn't coming back until I was at home, and I can just go, okay, now for my healing. Yeah. And it took a while to work through all my healings, mainly because I wouldn't stop working.
Why do I believe that's true? Well, it's funny, when I read the biography of Walt Disney, and he was talking about, he always felt like he had to accomplish, with the the parents a place for, the kids to go. There was a timeline. So he would work himself, and I really related to that because sometimes I feel like, what do you call it, type A personality, where you work a
Yes.
lot. But I
Yeah.
think it's more than that. I don't think it's because of
No.
nervous energy. I feel
No.
like you
have a lot to give.
and you got so much time, whatever that time is, whenever that time. I mean,
Yep.
time is limitless on the other side. But while we're here, I just want to make it count. Sometimes I have
Yep.
to remember, go smell the roses. Why don't you go skip in the yard? Why don't you rub your dog's belly? How about some ice cream? Have you had yogurt lately? No, things like that. So, well, you have been such an incredible joy. Is there any last words you want to tell people? And I'm going to send people to your website too.
I just realized I didn't tell you anything about what happened on the other side during that.
I want to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you've
real
got
quick
that time,
version,
yeah, I do want to hear that. This is the best part.
This is the most profound and most important one of all of them for me.
Okay, sure.
But it's the most difficult one to put into words because the moment I left my body, it was just like going through a hydraulic tube, sucked up into the furthest reaches of whatever, but in the total center of everything. And that's the sense I got when I came back from that space. While I was there, I can't even say I was anywhere. There's no me, there's no I. There's, of course, every death experience, once you're out of the body, there's no time. It's eternal. And there's not even a thought of time. There's not a single thought. I had no thought.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until afterwards that I realized there was not any bit of me. But there was total beingness, if you will,
Right.
but not me of any
Right.
sort.
The I am as
there are no separation.
You were be. You just beed.
And when I came back, I thought, and people wanted to know, and I thought the phrase that came to me right there was, I was sitting by the flame of God's eternal love.
Beautiful.
And that's kind of, okay. It's just as good as anything else, but it's
beautiful.
That was after coming back, as my mind starts to be able to work in sequence of saying things, that's probably as close as I can get. And that seemed, on a subjective level, from a earthly body viewpoint, it seemed like I might have spent like a 3-day period, equivalent of a 3-day period, day and night in that space. Then all of a sudden, the first thing, some semblance of a self I am, becomes aware there's some kind of movement behind me. And I conscious, there's no body. My consciousness turns around, away from the eternal flame of God's love. And when I turned away from that, then I'm seeing these massive, like pure, brilliant, white, huge wings, like undulating, and all around in this. Then I realized later that, that was like the inner sanctum, the Holy of Holies. It was the first thought that comes to me afterwards was, it was the purest. That was the definition of purity. It just couldn't get purer than the pure. And then as the wings opened up to let me fully face away, so to speak. And when I did, I'm looking out to this expanse of maybe hundreds of thousands of more regular angels with white wings undulating just as far as I can see. And I knew, I couldn't see it, but I knew it was beyond the end of all these angels that the world begins. And nothing from the world gets by any of this. This is where I think so many people feel like God is beyond reach, because they're looking at it from a human in the world level. This part isn't part of this world. This part isn't, again, I don't know what to say. But so then I became aware of that. Then I was taken to this, like a village of souls that were in advanced training spiritually.
I understand.
And so most of that is all what we would call meditation here, but meditation without a body. And you're just learning things instantly in this space. And then I get taken to what seems like the pitch black, dark, infinite darkness of total outer space or something, where I'm in this invisible tube, clear invisible tube, and floating in the middle of space with nothing above, below, sideways, anywhere. And out of somewhere, out of this blackness shoots out all these images, like super realistic holographic images of some of the most horrific things you can possibly imagine. And
Was
it's
it a
just
life
shooting.
review, or what was it of?
No, this was just all these thought forms and what kind of images and experiences created by human beings.
Got it. Okay.
And it's just shooting at me like I'm in front of the firing squad, and it's just shooting these.
Oh, okay.
And at first it's like, whoa. And then I realize, oh, I have to practice complete neutrality and non-resistance, just letting everything pass by. And as it passes by, it's almost like about to hit me. It's like having somebody throw a knife or a dagger at you, and it's just about where the point is going to pierce your skin. It disappears.
Okay.
Right. And I realized, oh yeah, I know this in here now. That, oh yeah, what you resist, you become. But I totally got to experience, oh yeah, the tiniest bit of resistance, and you experience being the effect of it. But when you don't resist it at all, it just goes right, it just disappears. It's not real. It's dream. Every scene is a dream. And each one, if you believe it, you stay in the dream.
Yes.
If you realize it's just a dream, the dream disappears.
Right. Like the Matrix.
And so that was,
yeah.
that, and then I go into another meditation training thing, and then I'm back into that space and more, and then meditation training, and then back into that. I went through that tube experience 3 times, and then in between were various types of meditation type learning spaces.
I got a question for you. Recently, I was, I'm busy at night like you, and I went through this too, but it felt like I was being sucked in. It's like, I'm no stranger to OBEs or astral traveling, but I went in this, I feel there are portals, but the fact I felt pressure, like I'm being squeezed in, and I'm going very fast. Only thing that I could think is this time I'm going further, to a further place. What do you think those are? And do you think I don't think you have to die to go through those things. What are they though?
Well, there's so many, I mean, as much as anybody could ever imagine anything, it is, on that level. And so what in our learning as souls and between our learning as well as our interests, some souls are incredibly interested in outer galaxies and life in other universes and so forth and so on. So they, ask and you shall receive.
Right.
It's, you get to experience, you're given the chance to experience whatever it is that you're really interested in. Also, you are put into places where your next lesson that you have to learn as a soul to further yourself in your awareness and enlightenment and freedom, you get to have those experiences. So some of those, there are if you're traveling out of the body through different universes, there are portals that you can go through, right? To get to other universes. And it's more of not a physical experience, but more of a experience that you have to have more of a body to experience. And then there's other spaces where you go. My fifth near-death experience was after I had the zapper. So it zapped me back after.
So you had boom, boom, like close
so
together.
I didn't go all the way, but I was in this place of velvety, infinite blackness. It's completely black, as black can be, yet it's just total loving, total warmth, total nurturing, with all these brilliant gold little specks. I don't really know what that was, but that was my experience right before I returned to the body.
I've been to the black, where it's black. And, and as a human, you think, oh, it's really, really dark. It'd be scary.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it scary when I went there. I didn't see it as scary. I just was a little confused. I was dead. I was looking and where my body is. I was a little confused, but I don't think it was that. It felt strangely comforting, because I think to me, it feels like that it was the beginning of something. That's where I start going through a tunnel. That's one of mine. And I see Jesus with this hair blowing back like a rock star. But
yeah, we always joke around, if Jesus incarnated now, he'd be a rock star.
He'd be a total rock star. Yeah, he's got a lot of style. So, oh my gosh, it's. And I think it's a good point too, that there are portals, and I think that people that have, which hopefully we'll talk about it again, the second part, at some point, with the psychic phenomena, the intuitive phenomena, the empath, the healing, the mediumship, whatever, channeling, whatever you want to call it. To me, that we are the portal. We're the portal. Yes. And people's portals go to different places. I always make a joke and say, I take my portal to 111. That's where I like going. I keep my portal clean. I take it straight there. I don't do any of these weird portals, this creepy. No, I'm not into that. But you can go just about pretty much so wherever your mind wants to go.
Yeah. And that's just answered a long time question of mine. What's the purpose of a belly button? That's your portal. It's your mobile portal. It goes wherever you go. If you meditate on your belly button, a lot of people meditate on their belly button. Okay, where did I end up this time?
It's so funny. Well, it's funny. I was talking about meditation. I was reading, it was Dr. Von Kasan's book, Touched by the Light, and she was talking about a lot of people, Kundalini, they'll meditate. And I have a cousin who's a yoga master. They'll meditate from their root chakra up. And it never did anything for me. But then she said in the book, I was like, oh my God, that's me. That some people that have had mystical experiences, they just open the crown chakra right up. And I start here and it washes over me. And I can pretty much so get it any time. I go, whoa. And it feels like, whoa. Getting a V8 God. And boom. And but that's, so people, how they receive, I think, is different too. And
absolutely.
And like you said, even with the heart attack, you didn't follow the traditional go down the line. And I think that's why it's important for us to be intuitive to our needs here or in our body, that we have our vessel to take care of it, because we all really do have a PhD in us. We know what we want, what we don't want. We really do. But some people like to dramatize, boo-hoo. And you really don't need anyone to tell you what to do. They just need to help you really have confidence in yourself, that you listen to your own answers. We don't really need counsel from anyone. And if we do, we can always scream at our guides, I need some help.
But when we're screaming at our guides, we're screaming inward.
Yes. Well, that's true. It's back to that mirror again. Yeah. It's back to that mirror. Yeah, I tell you, sometimes I wonder, and that's a good question, about what are you able to tolerate in this world? But I think that they already know that on the other side. They're like, okay, Michael or Tamara's going to crack if we do, this is good. We're really grateful. Thanks a lot. It's funny. We don't expect a love flow back, but sometimes I'll get gratefulness and a feeling of love. There was one night I was, I wasn't asleep yet. I have to get my pillows under my arms and get my everything situated. And I'm getting situated. And I start hearing this chorus of angels in my right ear. It's usually always my right ear. And I'm going, but it's like layers of this pretty singing. And I'm going, okay, I'm losing my mind. And then I turn my head and this and that. This went on for about an hour. And then I got this overwhelming sense of, we just want to say thank you and we love you. And I was like, wow, that we can get that love back.
Yeah.
It's not just sending it out. We can also get that back from the other side, because it isn't easy being here. But the thing is, you're right. Have joy while you're here, and do that within yourself and generate it within yourself. Well, I tell you what, you're so much fun. You're so amazing. We could get down so many rabbit holes. And I love the fact that I've already visited you in the astral or me, you, or whatever. I don't know. It's great because most people I visit don't even know that I'm there. I've only had about 3 people that go, did you say and tell me to do this and that? And I went, yes, that would be me. One person tried to solve me and thought, do an exorcism on her quick. I'm like, that is just weird. I just came to say hello. But the fact that you remember that, and I think that we all can in our meditation or our dream state, especially if we're traveling. And most people, they get bored. They travel at night. They do. They get bored. They're like, I'm going to go do stuff. So if you wake up tired, that's probably what's going on. Well, look, I want to give everybody your website, michaeltamura.com, and also the radio show. I want people to tune into that as well, which you've been doing, like you said, 3 years, Living the Miracle with Raphael on Wednesdays at 11 Pacific time?
11 a.m. Pacific time.
Okay, so that would be 11.
So
2
o'clock your time.
2
yes.
EST, Eastern time.
Yep.
So that sounds great. Thank you so much. You are like one of the most funnest guest I've ever had.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks for inviting me. Yay.
Thank you so much, Michael. And hopefully we can get Raphael on here too sometime.
Yeah, you'll love her.
Oh, I already do. She sounds like a character, and she has a lot of patience too.
Yes. Oh, anybody married to me has to have lots of patience.
You supply the entertainment, and she's got the patience. I have that arrangement with my husband too. And by the way, it's very odd that your birthday is the same exact birthday as my husband. That is strange.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know the time on that. That is very odd. So, wow. Well, look, thank you again so very much.